welcome to the December 16, 2015 Board of Selectmen Sewer Commission meeting. Roll call, everyone is present. Reading and acceptance of minutes from previous meeting, December 2nd, 2015 regular session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
December 2nd, 2015 executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So that's no fire. It's, new business, we're going through the licenses right now. Consider signing the intermunicipal agreement for nursing services for the town of Sutton.
Mr. Chairman, I did advise you at a prior meeting that in Sutton and locally, an intermunicipal agreement has been drafted between the two towns. I think you have it in your possession. The Sutton Board of Selectmen unanimously voted it last night. They're very accustomed to this. It's their employee. And if you recall from the terms of the agreement, if you read it, that it's the pass-through expense would be $75 per hour payable to the town of Sutton. So all of the employee infrastructure and by Sutton are very accustomed to doing this. So it looks like a good partnership. If you approve this, the next obligation would be for us to get a certificate of insurance naming, the town of Sutton as a named insured on the town's policy, and we're off and running. And the agreement does have the endorsement of our Board of Health too, Mr. Chairman.
As a matter of fact, I just saw Mr. Barrell from the Board of Health an hour ago. He said this was a great agreement. This is something we definitely should be doing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you want to do Leslie's? We'll do concurrence on the 3-year appointment of Leslie Gurton as town accountant effective January 1st, 2016, and consider voting to sign an employment contract with Leslie Gurton effective January 1st, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consider voting to designate Nancy Lucier as delegate for the MMA Conference MMIIA annual meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're rolling along here. Review and consider, you get 705?
Oh, no, I said town meeting schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of whispering, trying to whisper
Review and approve meeting schedule for May 16, 2016, semi-annual town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we going to?
Motion to adjourn.
Announce.
Oh,
Do you have in front of you, Jim?
Are we gonna read it out so people, no, are we gonna,
Oh, sure. We'll post it on it's a couple pages. Would you like me to, I can make that recitation if you'd like. Schedule, Nancy?
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Joe?
It's not on that.
it's not, well, I don't even have it, I guess, in the agenda.
It's on the agenda, we just don't have it in the package document.
We don't have the,
Geez, I had it in hand.
Oh, no, it must be in the agenda, then I just have,
I'm lost. Which one are we looking for now?
The
Schedule?
town meeting schedule.
Oh, I stand corrected, we do have it in the.
Oh, it's all the way in the back.
Very last 2 pages, so this needs.
Forgot. It's the last item in the back.
all right, you want to read, Jim?
Sure. The 2016 annual town meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 16, 2016, at 7:00 p.m. in the West Boylston Middle High School Auditorium. The schedule for the town meeting warrant preparation is as follows. March 16, 2016, the town administrator will present his preliminary 2017 budget recommendation to the Board of Selectmen as part of the Board of Selectmen's meeting. April 4th, the town administrator will submit the final FY 2017 budget recommendations to the Finance Committee. April 4th to April 15th, The Finance Committee will conduct the FY 2017 budget review sessions and meet with appropriate officials on the FY 17 budget from April 4th through April 15, 2016. The deadline for warrant article submission for the annual town meeting will for 2016. The Board of Selectmen will acknowledge, at the Selectmen's meeting of April 13, the Board of Selectmen will acknowledge the list of warrant articles received as part of their agenda package. The following week, on April 20, the Board will conduct a public work session meeting in conjunction with the Finance Committee to review the proposed 2017 budget recommendations. They will also close, approve, and sign the warrant for the May 16. On May 2nd, the warrant for the annual town meeting will be posted and copies printed for distribution. And finally, on May 16, the annual town meeting will be held at the West Boylston Middle High School Auditorium at 7:00 p.m.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. All right, this MMA Consulting Report and Review of the Department of Public Works. Come on up, guys. How you doing? Okay. Everybody have a copy of the report?
Yes.
Good, bad, indifferent? How we doing?
We're doing fine. We don't know how you're doing. You have a way in which you'd like us to proceed?
Why don't you give us your take on it, and we'll see if we have questions we want to ask you.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple, and then, if you look at the Public Works Department, if you think about, from our perspective, the sort of two important things. Primarily, there's a lot of stuff in there, but there's two things that stand out. One, I think you need a director who will focus on the infrastructure that you have, and that goes hand in hand with the second item you can decide, which is the priority, is really to develop inventories, asset management, so you know where every shade tree is, every catch basin is in the condition of it, and every piece of infrastructure that you have. From that, you can develop preventive maintenance programs, and from that, you can, what you really need to do, and this is the cost of those things. And so I think that's some of the things. For example, you have the payment management document. A little complicated in a sense, but the director could sort out that and make recommendations for the most appropriate things to do. So really, it's really that top end that we think is critical to do, at least the focus for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Your focus may change in the future, but that's the things that we think are important. The asset management and really the role of the director in that operation. I don't have anything else you want to add, or you want to?
Essentially, if you look at the roads, the drainage systems, and the utilities, it's your most expensive asset in the town. If you had to replace it, so what you want to do is make sure you have a good understanding of all of those assets. Not only, we have them on a list, but what the condition is, and they need to be looked at on some sort of a routine schedule. You can do it every year. If you don't have the staff to do it every year, do it every 2 years. It depends on the actual structure. Your catch basins. Once you have them all cleaned, you go out and inspect them all, and you find out what is in bad shape, and then you put it on a work schedule to replace it. The amount of time in the report, the amount of time that's being spent on cleaning the catch basins and sweeping, it takes up a large amount of time of your staff, and you're not necessarily getting it done in an efficient manner because of the limit on the staff. So one of the recommendations to consider is either partially or entirely outsourcing some of those activities, which would free up some other time for your staff to go out and do some of the inspections that are necessary to understand what condition all of your assets are in. There's only a few assets that, as an example, that we've mentioned in there. You have your roads, the drainage system, but the sewer system. Open up those covers every year and look at the castings, look at the structures, look at all the components, and you can actually come up with a list of what everyone should look at when they go out and look at these. This can be expanded into your outfalls, your culverts, your bridges, public shade trees. Honestly, that's a very important asset for the town, is the public shade trees. I've done studies of over 10,000 shade trees, and you go out, you identify them, and when you look at them, you're going to find that there are problems. If you don't look at them, when the tree falls across the road and comes down on a car, then you react to it. That's not the right way to manage assets. And so if you have a heads up and you understand on an annual basis where everything is, you can make a better choice as to where to spend the funds for the town.
You guys want to ask some questions? Yep. I have. In option one, you said the county management system does the storage and the DPW. Director of the Public Works is responsible for maintenance of the town's infrastructure and the storage. Your recommendation is only the storage, is only the DPW?
There's two ways that you can go with that. You can focus on having somebody come in and spend their time on the streets, the infrastructure, the sidewalks, the curbings, the drainage systems, the culverts, the outfalls, get that in order. And then this body would oversee the sewer contract, which is outsourced right now, and that consultant is coming in and giving you essentially a preventative maintenance program with the recommendations that they're coming in with, the flushing and different things of that nature. They're coming in and they're handling that side of it for you. One of the options that we put in there was to get the other side done, and then in the future, perhaps those can merge and you can move forward, doing some of that internally.
That's option two, you're saying we don't have somebody maintaining it, we take it ourselves. That's option one.
Or you have to run it through the town administrator's office.
Yeah, the administration of the
Contract.
contract would be out of the town hall and not the DPW.
So you're not,
That's all.
you're not saying that the DPW should maintain it themselves, or we handle it ourselves?
No, we're saying the contract should be managed by the town administrator's office, and whatever appropriate information comes to you from that direction.
And depending on the person that you hire as a director, if you have someone who has an engineering background, who has an understanding of construction, they're going to be able to provide the town administrator with expertise on certain aspects that are needed on that contract. But the contract itself, the administration of that contract, should be through the town administrator with the sewer commissioners. Now, later on, once you get the other assets, you get a good handle on those, we're saying that option one would say focus on bringing up to speed all the other assets, so you have a good handle and you understand where the funds need to be expended over there. As an example, you have a PCI pavement condition index of 61, I believe it is, of the town. A town this size, you should be up in the mid-80s, but you're not, because the money hasn't been appropriately spent over the years to maintain a certain pavement condition index. You have a nice pavement management study, but everything has been put into a specific category, but the important thing now is who's going to implement that. You can't afford to do everything in there. You have something like a $5 million backlog when you look at the way that that is written. You can manage how you spend and where you spend that money to bring your overall PCI up into the 80s, but it's a matter of somebody coming forward with a plan on how to do that. You can go out and you can spend $1 million on 1 mile of road and make it the best mile of road in town, but the remainder of the roads are not going to have any work done on them. And then you can go out and you can do crack seal on every road in town, but you're not going to bring, other than maintaining that, and you're not going to bring the condition up. So you need to have somewhere in between, and someone has to implement that pavement management program. That's just a snapshot of time. You need to update that on an annual basis. It would be expensive to bring an engineer in to update that plan and to work with that particular software. I think I've mentioned before that, for the 54 miles, 56 miles of road that you have in town, that can be managed in-house on a simple Excel spreadsheet, and just on an annual basis go out and take a look at the condition of your roads, where things are starting to deteriorate, and then someone who has a good understanding of how to build and maintain roads is going to be able to come in with a program of every road has a different treatment that's applied to it for a cost savings.
You mentioned that we should use our personnel to go out and determine the condition of our assets, correct? Isn't that assuming that our personnel know what the condition of our assets is supposed to be? All right, say we have, somebody applies in the past, I'm not saying currently, because I don't even know, applies for a job, I'm a truck driver, we put an ad in for a truck driver, backhoe operator. We hire him. He doesn't know one thing about a culvert. He doesn't know one thing about how to build a catch basin. So how do I send him out? I got to train him first to look at whatever he's looking at, correct?
Right, but if you bring in someone who has those skills as a director,
Yeah.
it does not take an awful lot to teach somebody what they need to look at. When you're looking at a catch basin, when you're looking at the different, and whether you have precast, I'm sure you have some block ones, some block construction in town. The salt, the sand, it deteriorates underneath. You have different levels of material in there that you look at and see if it's deteriorating. And then the director would make a choice, depending on how many you have, whether you outsource the repair of those or you do that in-house. It's a matter of time management. It's a matter of utilizing your staff. There's nobody who knows the town better than your staff. They're out there every day working on it, doing the maintenance on it. It's a matter of focusing them on putting together a holistic approach to the infrastructure of the town. So that's why I'm recommending utilizing the staff, training the staff. Now, in some cases, bridges and culverts, let's say, outfalls, that may take bringing an engineering firm in to do an initial evaluation, and then have that engineering firm come in and come up with an annual inspection that can be done, that does not require an engineer to come in and do strength analysis and things of that nature. But there's still a lot that can be done that will identify indicators of when that asset is starting to deteriorate and when you need to spend a little more attention on it.
I just have a thought. So now, once we determine that the asset is in need of repair, then our people would go out and repair it? Or does this indicate that we should hire an outside firm to come in and repair it?
It all depends on the repair that's needed and the magnitude of repairs that you have. When you first go out, I've had people working for me for 28 years in a particular sector, and I had them go out and inspect all the underground utility of it. And there are people who were there for 28 years who found manholes they didn't know existed. So again, if you track it, it will improve. It's the same scenario. If you go out and you look at it on a routine basis, you're going to start to catch things. The first time you go out, you're going to find some things that are in pretty bad shape. The second year you go out, it's only been a year since you've looked at it. So the repairs are not going to be as extensive as the first year. And as you go along, your repairs are going to be minimized. And your putting out fires is going to be minimized because you have a better control of those assets. Now, the first year you go out of the roughly 800 catch basins that you have, let's take those for example, you may find that you have 150 of them that need repair. Well, you need to look at the staff that you have and determine if you have the time to do that. You need to prioritize where those are, and maybe some of them you outsource to a local contractor to come in and do those repairs. Maybe some of them you do in-house. You don't have a large staff, so you need to utilize them in the most effective manner. Identifying the problems, I believe, is the best use of your staff. Once you've identified the problems, then you have to figure out how you're going to disseminate the work and implement the repairs.
Okay, just one last question. And I guess maybe I was under a different interpretation of what exactly this was going to do. And I think, what it says this person should do is great, okay? But I also thought we were looking for a model, potential model of what our department should look like. Should it have a director that does say these things? Then should it have a foreman that isn't necessarily digging the holes and doing that, but overseeing the work that's out in the street? And then we'd have the staff. And now the foreman necessarily might not be there every minute at every site, because we could have a couple crews, one here and one here. But I don't see that. I just see what you want the director to do. But I don't see any kind of a structure that
I think the
that
structure,
we have, that you would recommend that we use in this town.
well, I think the structure that you have, which is the Director of Public Works, foreman, then you get into heavy equipment operators, and the supervisors, and then your labor force.
But let me just interrupt you. Our foreman does he's actually working.
Right.
He's digging the hole.
Mhm.
So you would recommend that we continue just doing what we do, except that I don't know, you came up with a list of things that the director should do,
Well, I think,
other than anybody else should do.
well, when the director comes in, he's going to have to look at how to put a plan together to manage the assets. Now, how he utilizes the staff to do that is going to be dependent on what he finds with problems. In the foreman's position, the activities may change over time, whereas he's out in the field helping with those inspections, helping to train other staff to do those inspections, and to implement some of the repairs that can be managed in-house. So there are times that the foreman will be out there actually working on the job. There will also be times that he'll be doing inspections and helping the new director to oversee and develop a preventative maintenance program for all of the assets that you have. So it's hard for us to come in and say, these are the specific tasks that you're going to do, because you don't know holistically what the condition of all your assets are. Once you do, then you can say, okay, this is the best way to manage these. If you're going to have a contractor come in and do some of the repairs, or some of the cleaning, or some of the street sweeping, then the foreman may be overseeing some of that work, as opposed to being out there and doing it, because they're going to come in and do it quicker, which is going to allow more time for other activities.
Thank you.
When you and I talked at the meeting we had, you said to clean the catch basins. Did you give me, it was like $20,000? Was that the right?
You have to go out to bid and get some prices, but you could be looking at $10, $15, $20 per basin, depending on how long it's been since the basins have been cleaned, the location, the proximity of where they are. Every contractor's going to come in and they're going to price it accordingly. But they're going to be able to come in and do the 800 basins in probably 2 to 3 weeks.
And you said we spent 120 days? Is that something like that?
I believe when I was interviewing the acting director, it was the acting foreman, he was saying that they were out quite a bit of the year doing them, and the best they'd ever been able to do was get about 80% of them done, and that was working on them as they could throughout the summer.
Can I just ask Mike,
Can I speak after
Yes.
this?
Oh, okay.
After this?
All right. I just thought that was an incredible amount of time. I mean, short money for what is getting done and what we are doing. Just,
You have to look at, a contractor's going to come in with 2 or 3, 4 trucks. Going to come in, get it done, and go, because they're being paid per basin, not per hour. They're going to get paid, it depends on how you structure your bids also. But right now, you have 1 truck that's going out, and, depending on which truck is going out to do the work, you have to now haul that material to wherever you're disposing of it. There's regulatory requirements on the disposal of that material. So you have to take that into consideration. So it's just a matter of looking at the jobs themselves and saying, do I want to have one person doing this for several months, or do I want to get it done and utilize that staff in a more efficient manner to help bring an understanding of all the assets?
I'm sorry, can I just ask one more question? One last question. I didn't see anything in this report about, in your opinion, can the foreman be the director?
I didn't.
It's likely we would not recommend a specific person, since we don't know the history, we don't know.
No, I'm
anything about it.
saying that the foreman we have now, I'm saying, can a working foreman be the director also?
You mean hold 2 jobs at once, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Probably not in your case, no, because you don't have a lot of people. I would say no.
You still need to have somebody in a position that is putting the plan together. It takes a lot of effort to actually develop a plan in a way that can be presented to you on an annual basis, to make the recommendations, to actually analyze, like the pavement management study, to actually look at that and say, okay, where do we best spend this money to get the best bang for our buck, to raise our PCI? You're gonna run into that same analysis that's needed for every asset that you collect the data on. So the director needs to be involved out in the field. He needs to set the direction on where the foreman's gonna be going with the crews, what work is gonna be done. He needs to whatever degree, he needs to go out in the field and verify that, or maybe come out as a, for expertise on how to do something when they run into a problem. But the main focus of his job is going to be to manage holistically the town's assets.
It might be in here, but I haven't seen this until we just got here today, so I do have a question. It seems like you're talking about outsourcing a lot, and I have not gone through the whole thing. And to me, that kind of raises a question, because you keep saying taking care of the assets. Well, I'm kind of torn, because I wonder if we're going to be working smarter with this kind of setup. I'm not sure. It seems like if we're bringing in all these other companies to do a majority of the work, then, as you're saying, the director's gonna be, or the foreman, however it plays out, is gonna be sending people to do the other part of the work. I'm a little confused, because it seems like we're paying on both sides at that point. Because right now, we do have some really good people, working for us, doing the job.
You have some very good people, and the fact that you have some very good and some very qualified staff is why I think you need to utilize those people and their knowledge of the town and the infrastructure to put together a plan that can be presented to you as an asset management plan, and then put together a preventative maintenance plan. So when I mentioned the couple of instances in there about outsourcing, it is an option to consider if you are utilizing 6 to 8 months to do a particular task, sweeping. Let's take, for example, let's say you're taking 6 months to do the sweeping. You have at least one person in the sweeper and possibly another person following with a truck to do the dumping and the disposal, so they can continue to try and make it as efficient as possible. That's 2 people out of a small crew that are now focused on doing that work. And I'm saying that maybe you don't outsource all of the town for sweeping, but maybe you look at certain residential areas, or maybe you do certain, the business areas that you do more routinely, maybe you do those in-house. You find a happy medium on how you can get the man-hours necessary to develop an asset management plan and a preventative maintenance plan. Once you have that in place, and once you have a very good understanding of where you need to spend your time, spend your manpower, and spend your funds, then those tasks are going to shift somewhat. Because it's going to be a lot easier to go out and do the inspections, because they're going to know, they're going to have all that original information there, and now you're just updating that information. This can be done on iPads, it can be done on pads of paper. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. But I think in the short term, you need to consider, if you go out and you inspect all the catch basins and you find a couple hundred that need to be worked on, with the staff that you have, that's going to take a long time to do those repairs. And that's just one example. I'm just picking catch basins. I'm not saying you have that many in bad shape.
I'm not convinced that a strong director or foreman wouldn't be able to work with our people here and get more out of the work. I'm not sure we've had the right direction at the top, and where I come from in private sector, that can play into it. So if you have one person who is maybe a little less casual on the management side, but people are working 8 hours, well, if he's a stronger manager, they might work 8 hours, but they might get 10 hours worth of work done. That's where I'm a little concerned here to say, that's something that I think we have to be looking at.
And again, I think if you look at the recommendations, what we're looking at primarily is the type of person that you need to hire. And those qualifications that come in with that person are really going to dictate how everything else goes, because that person's going to come in and he's going to look at all the different things that you have, and he's going to come up with his own way of managing it and putting the programs together that you're looking for.
One last question. On this chart, on Exhibit 1, it says recommendations and then priority. Under here, it lists that the cemetery department should be included in the public works, but the numbers on the right say 1 and 2. So you're saying number 1's, this is what we really need to focus on, and then later look at number 2's?
Number one,
Is that up above where it
That's
says?
number of employees in that position.
no, which he's looking at the summary of the recommendations at the end of the executive summary, right? The 14 should be listed.
It's like on the third
Third page,
page.
yeah.
So look at right
What-
above, Siobhan, right above the chart.
Yeah, what it's saying.
Oh, I'm so- okay.
Yeah, it defines, it's those things, the one,
Yeah.
there are things you can defer, doesn't really make a difference, but those ones are the things that I would focus on. That's our opinion, when you should
Okay.
focus on. That's what the
Okay.
intent was, to divide them into 2 reasonable piles, I guess.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Do you feel the director should be a working director? Where he can go out and actually do the work with the, if time permits? Or do you think he should just supervise?
No, I think that he needs to be involved. I believe that in my world, the director of the Public Works Department is there for all the snowstorms. All right, he's involved. He may not be driving a truck around, but he may have a truck with a plow but not have a route. But so he can do cleanup, or if there's a breakdown, he can step in and help out, or he can give another employee the truck while he's doing something else. He should be involved in the activities. The day-to-day activities, he should know and direct where the personnel is going. I don't believe that he should be out there operating the backhoe, but I believe he should make periodic stops at the site and make sure things are being done the way he expects them to be done.
And just adding to Mr. McCormick, now, like the structure of the department, you didn't really look at that, give recommendations on that.
Now, I looked at the structure, and I think the structure is acceptable if the right person is hired.
So for instance, how the parks runs and how there's one person that kind of handles the parks, the foreman doesn't really oversee that, I don't believe. Is that all, did you look at that, I'm asking?
I did, and the director, when he comes in, he needs to understand what the requirements are of the department and what the obligations of the department are to other town departments, to residents, to this body. He needs to understand where people need to be at what time, what time the lines need to be put on the fields, when the mowing needs to be done, and it needs to be disseminated down to the workforce through the director.
I agree.
Not the other way.
Yeah.
It needs to be, and at times things may change, and he or she needs to make that decision on the schedule. That's why I'm saying he or she needs to be involved in the day-to-day activities to understand what needs to be done. And when there's an outside source that is requesting something, it needs to go through that person, not through the staff.
So some of that stuff that you're saying the director should do, should the foreman be doing that? Should the director tell the foreman this is the work to be done, and he kind of handles that, so the director can kind of...
Yeah, typically speaking, when you have a director and a foreman set up, the director will probably be a week, month, 6 months ahead of, in the planning aspect of it. But he's going to sit down with the foreman on a weekly or daily basis and say, this is what I want to get done this week. And then the foreman is going to propose an implementation plan to the director, he'll sign off on it, and then the foreman will go out and start doing that work. The director will periodically stop by, make sure things are being done, but, that's a standard, hierarchy, so to speak. It can be done that way.
And I think, and I kind of agree, I think over the years, we have looked at like street sweeping and things like that, and we've had looked at, I think Mr. McCormick, we've talked about catch basins many times about, and I think we did, the money, we were trying to get money, but you're right, it could probably street sweeping. They'd probably do it all in a couple weeks, the whole town. I mean, they'll bring in 2 trucks, maybe 3 trucks.
And it gets done, right.
Right.
And I'm just saying that, that looks at also the quality of life that you want to provide to the residents. If you want residents wait until September, October, August, October to have their streets swept in front of their house, that's fine. But in a lot of towns, the residents wouldn't like that. They want to get it all done in the springtime. And you have to understand that the longer that the sand and salt stays on the street, the more you're going to get into the catch basins. So it's a matter of balance and what services you want to provide to the community and how efficiently you want to get those done.
in some of the, and when we met, some of the things we talked about the roads and everything. I mean, instead of putting all your money into this road that's real bad, maybe putting all that money into all of the roads that are in the middle and keeping them in the middle.
Right, I mean, the pavement management program, study that you had done, it works on that theory. It makes it a little complicated, the way they present it, but essentially what you want to do is, if you took and you ranked a road from 0 being the absolute worst road in town to 100 being the brand-new road that was just built, you rank every road somewhere in between 0 and 100. You pick the point, let's say 60, of when a road has failed and needs reconstruction. So any road that's 60 and below is going to cost you a tremendous amount of money to repair it. That road is in bad shape, it's going to stay in bad shape. It's not going to get worse, okay? So that amount of money is set for what you need to spend on that. You just have to worry about inflation if you take 3 years to do it. But if you look at the roads that are high 60s, 70s, high 70s, those roads are in fair condition. If you don't keep those roads in fair or improve their condition by doing some crack seal, doing some chip seal, some micro overlays, there's all kinds of technologies out there. Even you can even include an 1.5-inch overlay in there as a method. You go out and rather than milling out a road and then putting pavement in, you can maybe do some shimming, do some spot repairs here and there, and then you can overlay the road. That road is going to increase in the PCI, and now those roads are not going to fall into the reconstruction category, which is more expensive. So the whole idea is maintaining what you have in your fair roads and improving them. And then when you do have money, or maybe you put a certain amount of money aside each year, knowing that you have this larger project over here to do, and then when you have the money, you do that project.
The only question I had is you put, director should have an engineering degree or a degree in construction management. It sounds to me like you need a working knowledge of those things, but what you really need is more of a management degree. It doesn't necessarily have to be an engineering degree. If you've got a guy that is a manager, has a business MBA type degree, but has been working in the construction industry as a foreman for 20 years, why are we hemming ourselves into saying it has to be an engineering degree or a construction degree?
I think that you'll see or an equivalent or something in the field. So if you looked at a management degree, someone who was a project manager, or someone who had some kind of a business in the construction field, absolutely. But I think what you want to make sure you have is somebody who understands how the infrastructures are built and the understanding of how and the different methods of maintaining the infrastructure are. I've seen some people in the past, I forget the town that we did a study in, they had put a pavement management study together, and it was basically go out and mill 1.5 inches off of every road and fill it back in with 1.5 inches. That was their pavement management program. I think at the time it was like $18 million or something like that. And you go out, and I looked at the roads, and you had some roads that were oil treated. I said, what are you going to mill? It's sand and oil. You can't mill that road. But so it's having an understanding of what the product that you have is, and maybe going out and, digging up the pavement and seeing what kind of pavement it is, how deep is it, what can I do with this? You have to have somebody who knows how to find the information and knows how to implement a repair strategy or a maintenance strategy.
We have found through the years that sometimes, a little to a certain extent here, but other places as well, people have, you have Chapter 9 money would be an example. You have a fair amount available. Sometimes people don't spend money as rapidly as they should. There's a lot of projects, a lot of things happening. It's really, can we implement those projects? And you need, somebody who understands that construction business, wherever they came from, to get it going, to get the contractor going, to get the contracts ready, and simply to do that kind of work. That consumes time, but it's critical that you spend your money you have.
Okay. Question I have is, we have bought some equipment over the last few years for the department. Anything that you were suggesting, would that make that equipment that our people would not be using? I don't want our townspeople to have spent this money over the last couple of years, and now we don't have a need to use these things, and I...
Absolutely not. I mean, if you have, your street sweeping. Okay?
Right, that's the one I'm thinking.
If you go out and you have areas that you do on a more frequent basis, maybe it's a business district, or after a rainstorm, you have certain areas that you get some erosion, you want to have that sweeper in-house, and you want to be able to go out and do that work. You want to be able to go out and do that before particular construction projects. You want to be able to have it available when you need it, and maybe you want to have a certain area that you do all the time. But there's other areas that maybe when you get out into the residential areas and the subdivision and areas like that, when you look at it, it may make more sense to have a private contractor come in and take care of those areas. I'm not saying as a whole you want to just get rid of the equipment and have somebody else come in and do all of it. No, you don't want to do that at all. Even catch basin cleaning. If you have a spill or you have something that gets in your catch basins, you need to have the equipment to take that out of there. All right, so if you have them come in and do annually the catch basins or a portion of the catch basins, you still need to have that piece of equipment available to do the work when it's necessary.
So, I mean, I know you're not talking about dollars and cents in this whole thing, but it sounds like everything you're saying is without a doubt going to cost us more. I mean, I don't think there's any question. You're telling us to keep all the current staff, hire a director, and outsource portions of the job.
I'm saying that when a director comes in with the proper qualifications, he's going to look at developing a plan. To develop that plan is going to take man hours. He may want to do it all himself, although I think that's a tall order. I think what he wants to do is train existing staff to go out and help him do that over a period of time. In order to gain the hours from that staff, what I'm saying is, in the short term, you may want to consider outsourcing some of the tasks that take a long time. So it frees up some time to do that study and to get that information in hand so that that can be presented to you. As you move forward, and once you get through the first initial repairs and things that you find that you didn't expect, you can go back to having more of it or all of it in-house. But it's a matter of, that initial surge to get that work done. You don't have an engineering staff to go out, and you don't have additional staff available to go out and pick up 800 catch basin covers to look inside, to look at all the manholes that connect to those catch basins, to look at all your sewer manholes, to look at all your outlets, your head walls, your flared ends, your guardrail requirements, even your existing guardrails, to look at the maintenance of those. If you want to get down into the public shade trees, there are a lot of assets out there that go unnoticed.
But no town our size would have all that stuff you're talking about.
What do you mean?
Have those people, the extra people on staff.
No, you have
engineers on staff, a whole
No.
team.
Well, no, when you get into a city or something like that, you do. So that's why there's a balance that you have to look at. You have a lot of Chapter 90 money, for instance. Okay, so you hire an engineering staff to come in, an engineering firm to come in and do a small study of all your traffic signals. You look at the geometry, you look at everything that needs to be done, handicap ramps, and you put a study together, and you say, okay, here's what we need to look at in the future. Yeah, you don't have the expertise in-house perhaps to do that particular type of work. Same thing when you look at bridges and culverts. You might want to have an engineer come in and look at that. It's a small amount of money. You're talking a few $1,000s to have an engineering firm come in and do that work to set you up so that moving forward, you can train your staff to go out and look at the overall structure and say, okay, we're starting to see signs of wear here. We need to start looking at this a little more seriously.
What would your thought be about, for instance, street sweeping or catch basins, maybe sharing a piece of equipment like that with another town? Why would you need one sitting in the garage if you're only going to use it for a few things? I mean, it's a big cost. Sitting probably hurts the truck as much as running it all the time.
True. Especially if you use biofuel. But regardless of that, yeah, that's a great thing to look at. However, regionalization can sometimes be difficult because it always seems to be one community has something to offer and the community you're sharing it with doesn't have as much to offer. So that can be difficult negotiations. But it's definitely something that's possible. But that kind of leads into another part of the recommendation and reports is that you don't want to look at regionalizing necessarily unless you've looked at all the other town entities to make sure that you're utilizing everything that you can in-house first. And that goes to, you know, the cemetery, the parks, and things like that, to say, you know what, we can share services. You're not looking to take over the administrative or the different boards and things like that. You're looking to share resources, whether it be with the billing, with the water, or with the electric, or whether it be, I mean, the electric department most likely does, you know, quite a bit of tree trimming. That probably takes care of half the roads on one side. Do something with their contract to look at the other half, or maybe share some efforts there. There's a lot of different ways to do things.
Right, and you talked about cemetery and parks like that. The parks is definitely under the DPW.
Absolutely.
Complete control. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure how the foreman handles that. I don't know how, I'm not sure how it works, but.
Again, it's a matter of utilizing,
Cindy's done that.
look at it this way. This is the way I approach it. The residents of the town pay property tax, excise tax, they're your customers. The sewer department provides sewer to their customers, who happen to be the same customers that you have for taxes. The water department sends out a bill to their customers, who happen to be the same customers as yours. So it's the same customer base, okay, with a lot of different divisions collecting money for services. All I'm saying is, look at that town-wide and say, where can we share services to reduce the rates and reduce the cost to our customers, who happen to be the same customers. That's how I kind of look at it.
As kind of a follow-up to what you had said, I think the answer is, in the short run, yes, absolutely. If we outsource these street sweeping, catch basins, whatever the DPW director thinks we should outsource, it will absolutely cost us more money. But in the long run, that'll free up our workers to do the preventative maintenance checks and services, so that instead of having to repave a road, we have to seal it. And in the long run, yeah, we'll have to spend more money up front, but in the long run, if the plan is developed properly, it'll save the town a ton of money overall, if it's developed properly.
That's true, yeah, that's.
Is that fair to say?
Anybody else? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mike, you do it?
Yeah, can I have a couple minutes, or?
Oh, sure. You want to come up on the hill? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Come on.
Once leave, or how do you want
Oh,
to?
you can sit.
All right.
Bring a chair up, Mike.
And Mike, you gotta stand.
Grab a chair, Mike.
You can actually have mine if you like. I just got this too, and I just wrote a couple notes down. I just want to let you know that when we were asked about this stuff, we told them about what we've done in the past, not what we're doing now. It's about how it's been done, you know, while you were doing the report on this. Some of the time you guys, you know, you've researched quite a bit on the sweeping and catch basin cleaning and all that stuff, and, you know, you bought the equipment and all that, and I think a lot of it, like you were saying, you touch base on, which I agree with most of this report, I really do. It's a fine balance on what we do, is what the guys do and what you privatize. I think that is the key to saving money, without a doubt. And we do a lot extra with the sweeper. I mean, like for Malden Street, we saved thousands of dollars by sweeping it ourselves before they overlaid it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's one of the fine balances you have. And we do a lot of the parking lots and all that stuff. I just was sitting on the top, just jotting a couple things down, because I didn't have time to look at this. And a lot of the projects that this report talks about, as we get deep, we didn't really go through them very much, have been on the books for a long time. You know, they've been on there 4 or 5 years. And I do agree some of the vent system, things like this are really important. The guys have got a lot of these projects off the books for you, and Worcester Street was completed today. We got Worcester Street done, the guardrails up, that's all done. And again, that's like they talk about, using the guys and a private guardrail company. We went in and built the wall out of the granite in the river itself. The guardrail company comes in, puts the guardrail in. Saved, I don't know, you guys have been saying some numbers like...
It was $203,000, and we ended up, how much it cost?
Like $6,000 we ended up spending on that project, because we did some and they did some. We put it out to bid for the guardrail, we got the lowest pricing for that. And Malden Street was a great example about what they were talking about. Our guys actually went in and did all the shimming of the road by hand. They actually shimmed all the spots, they dropped a couple areas in front of driveways, we put in all the
bales of hay for the Conservation Commission. We raised all the structures. And I think that job was, I want to say like $240,000. I looked at some numbers on that the engineering company came in. I think we did it for about $77,000 by the time it was done. And again, it was an overlay, because the truth is, most of the roads, a lot of them are surface treated, and we really had a hard time because we had a sewer system come through here, and it really made it hard on us because, you know, things are settling all over, especially Newton Street and some of those other streets that we were talking about. And we really do have to take, you know, a hand-in-hand approach is how we do this stuff. Just for instance, especially when they were saying about monitoring our assets, a practice we've been doing for a long time is when we have the catch basin cleaner truck go out, we have a form set up in his truck that as he cleans a catch basin, he writes down a note on each catch basin. If it's a telephone number, a pole number, or a house number, such and such catch basin needs 3 rows of blocks, needs mortar, you know, is whatever the shape, and we take that report at the end of the year and we put it together. Or if it's something that needs to be repaired right away, he'll tell the foreman that day, and we'll go out and repair it priority. And so those things, some of those things are already in place that you have already. You guys already have that done for you, and it's been done for a long time, especially the catch basin stuff, because when he's out there, it's always been crazy. You know, 5 years ago, we said he's got to start writing down the conditions of every one of these catch basins when he's out there, and he's got to observe, because he's the one on that edge of the road that no one might ever stop at. So he's the one that gives us the information for this stuff, and this is what we utilize to do all the repairs. Your manholes, a lot of those are pretty bad. We've got about 50 of them on a list that we put together this year. You see them marked out in paint and green. And again, that's one of those things that once they get caught up, which we already put together a bid for that that's going out in the spring, we've got to have those done by another company because we could never catch up with that, with all the other stuff we have to do. So that's another one of the examples that they say that, you know, it's one of the things that that person has to do in this job. He's got to put all this stuff together to, you know, get the best bang for the buck. And, you know, the infrastructure of our buildings. I mean, in the past, we put all the windows in our building. We put all the the windows, and we maintain the roofs, and we do all that stuff. And realistically, it's pretty bad that our building was one of the better buildings before you got this building, when they did the report. I mean, that thing's still together, so. I mean, these are just some of the things when you were saying you guys provided me with the tools I needed when you bid for the asphalt in place that we were able to save. And I've already been talking to PJ Keating. They want to come in and they want to do a bunch of overlays for us in the spring. There's a bunch of roads that that management study did that indicated a bunch of roads you need done. And we don't have to mill the whole road. When they talk about milling too, there's a process. You mill the edges of the roads just to keep the water from going in the driveways. You don't have to do the whole thing. Like we did jackhammer and we saw cut a few of the things on Malden Street, because if you raise the road up too much, then, you know, it's just start having problems. So, I mean, their report is good, and I do agree with almost everything in here, but I just wanted to let you guys know, you do have a lot of these things in place already that you do as far as your asset management goes, that take place that's just kind of unseen.
Mike? Okay. The system for the exhaust, has it been 3 years?
Probably.
What we've got done so far, the biggest piece was added because we needed to upgrade the electrical on it, so the 3-phase electrical has been done. I'm trying to put together the project with the vent installing people. We had some engineering done on it. You spent about $30,000 in engineering on that so far. And that's what we're trying to sort out with the vent people to come put it in. I don't think the fire department had the engineering part of it done, but for some reason our department did, so. We're on track to have them put that in. The same thing, you save money on your fuel systems too. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I want to say, I'm trying to put together a report for your next meeting. I want to say by just combining some of these things, having some of the stuff done privately and some of the stuff we've done in-house, I want to say it's about $430,000 you guys have saved in our Chapter 90 money that we can apply to other roads now, just this year alone so far. So, I mean, this is a successful approach to do both. It's the combination of companies coming in and do the big stuff and having your guys do the little stuff that just putting out bales of hay and silt fence and raising structures and shimming the road saves this town a ton of money. And you don't see it up front, but when you have all that extra money in your Chapter 90 money to do all these extra roads and, you know, stuff, it's huge. Some of the numbers are huge.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Talk about the exhaust system also, that it's been at least 3 years.
So, just one more question on exhaust. So didn't we appropriate $70,000 to do it?
Right.
Wasn't it already out to bid? Am I wrong?
That was town meeting 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting re-sunrised or something.
We had sunset
Sunrise
clause.
is-
Yeah, that's coming up
I
this
really
spring.
know it and.
But doesn't,
I can have a better answer for you for this next meeting, because
That'd be
I've been
great.
trying to research a lot of this stuff, because you had mechanical engineering done on it too, from a company in Sterling that it hasn't got back to me yet, on negative air in the building and all this other stuff, and I kind of explained to them, our building's kind of loose, I don't think we have negative air.
can you just find out what was approved before and what was
Yeah.
supposed to be done and what obviously wasn't done, but
I think we have about a third of the money left when I looked at the Sofrite last time. There's about a third of the money left after engineering and the electrical upgrades, so, and I'm not positive if that's enough to put the vent system in, to tell you the truth. That's what I'm trying to find out,
so we spent about $50,000.
yeah. The electrical was huge. That was recommended to you, I think, by
Yeah,
Silvio, had the upgrade for the three-phase electrical, was supposed to be more efficient and all the other stuff. So we had that done. That was the first project, that was the first phase we had to do, so that's already done.
But I guess we gotta give you time to look at it before, but if we appropriated $70,000, we must have had a price that was gonna
oh,
finish it.
$70,000, that was the whole thing.
That was supposed
That's
to-
what I mean. If we
I don't
appropriated
know-
that 3 years ago, and now we're saying 50,000 has been spent, then we're still not even,
You spent 30,000 on engineering, what I saw on it. That was a
30,000
couple of years ago.
engineering.
That's amazing.
Why didn't they just stick it up? I thought they just stuck it up
I
and
thought
laying
they
the
did
pipes
too.
down and throw it up.
That's kind of what I thought too.
That's incredible.
because now it seems to me that we're gonna be
Spend
somehow
another 50.
finding it in the budget or going back to town meeting and saying, we were
Even at
incorrect.
three-phase, I don't understand the expense
I
there.
don't either.
Bring
Oh, they
the
had to-
wire in and then the light department put one plug in, just to run that. I have to run the whole building.
I didn't design that part. That was already taking place before we
Let's put it
started.
this way, I run a restaurant, I had a new restaurant built, couldn't even cost me $30,000 to put in three-phase.
Right.
And everything runs on
I
three-phase.
I agree
I
about that.
understand.
So can you just give us a report for next meeting? Okay. Anything else on
Anyway,
Mike?
yeah, it's not.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to pick up on the wiring analogy, I did suggest just shortly before the meeting that what you've got here, and I think in the short run, it may cost money. Picture going up to the attic, grabbing your bundle of Christmas lights and having to untangle, particularly the last 3 years' worth of stuff that's built up. This summer, we got a very late start because of the the change in leadership at DPW, but this summer was the first time in 3 years Chapter 90 projects had been undertaken in the town. Okay? You cite the exhaust system, nothing has been done in 3 years in the town. So someone with the expertise to untangle those lights and then line them up in the right way is what's called for. I see these fellows seem to be in agreement on many things, but I think we positively can catch up on this stuff. I think it will take a little more, considerable effort and perhaps, a little more money. Some of the money that you're talking about, I think, would be Chapter 90 eligible, if you had to split responsibilities for, culvert repairs and things like that between, doing in-house and contracting things out-of-house. And it strikes me, Mike, when you said that you use a street sweeper to do Malden Street, I think machine rental is an eligible expense. We could take from our Chapter 90 expense.
Apply a number to
In
it.
effect, pay ourselves on that, so
we
so
can.
you should look on
In the
that.
future, where we have so
So
many
there is
to
a
do.
way of offsetting,
Yeah.
we have some of the resources that have gone,
The rent the trucks.
you call it idle capacity, that have gone unspent, unplanned, over the last 3 years or so. There is a way of untangling all that mess. I do believe, you need to put your ideal candidate profile together, and I think you need to expect to, spend a little more. I can't tell you specifically where, but, because in the intermediate and long term, it'll pay off big time. The situation is what it is, and now we have to make good on it.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Can we have this mic stay for a minute?
Sure, Mike, can you just stay for 1 second?
if you don't mind.
Did you bring that with you?
Believe it or not, when I got here, someone brought it from Leicester. It was up in the town hall up there.
Yeah, it's a couple of questions. I'm not asking you to answer this now, and you can get these questions from Nancy later.
Okay.
I want to, how long does it take to sweep the streets? Generally?
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
Less now because we're using more salt. It's a lot less now that we're using more salt.
Okay. All right, so we're not doing it in October,
No.
November?
No, I know.
Not since we got rid of our 30-year-old machine.
I think so, but anyway. I'd like to know what it costs us to clean the catch basins. You don't have to answer
Yep,
me now,
yep.
because you gotta figure that out.
Yep.
And what would that person be doing if he wasn't cleaning catch basins? Would he be out looking at catch basins to see if they're damaged and checking our assets, or maybe our bridges? Oh, we don't have any bridges. All right.
You looked me right in the eye on that.
I guess those are my only questions I have for you, okay? I guess my other one was, once all these assets, whatever, all these culverts and assets and all this stuff were reviewed, what would our staff be doing? After we reviewed that, because we put out the sweeping and the catch basin cleaning and repairs to everybody else, what do they do? Sit around and play cards until they
Well,
check the next
I
catch
can answer
basin?
that question. You don't have to put all that stuff out forever. We just need, in the short run.
Well, wouldn't it be cheaper to hire one guy to come and check the assets and have the other guys doing all the work? Why are we having 6 guys checking assets when you could have one guy checking assets and 5 guys
I
working?
think you're reading the guy, the report, he's just giving recommendations. He's not saying outsource everything, don't outsource everything. It's a consideration, and whoever the new DPW director is needs to understand, okay, if we follow the recommendations in this report, we want an inventory of everything we have, and you're going to set this up, and this is what we're going to do. Well, he doesn't have the people to do that and do the repairs. So in the short run, some of the things that the guys are now doing are going to have to be outsourced. The answer may be, we hire someone to do a complete survey of all of our assets.
So I don't think we need to, because he's already doing it.
I
We didn't know
understood.
that, but it's
That's-
been done.
Right, but I don't think he was advocating, these guys were advocating to outsource all of our things. They were just saying that you might be better, I would say you don't want to hire somebody to come look at the condition of all of your assets, because the guy that's cleaning the catch basin already knows, and now we know it's being documented on the catch basins. The guys that are driving around plowing the roads for the last 15 years, they know what the roads are like, more so than somebody that's going to come in and do a survey for us. So I think the point was not to outsource all of our stuff.
I was just saying, when they talk about their whole thing in this thing, they bring up checking the assets, check the assets, use your people to check the assets. It's in here about 5 times. My God, how many assets do we have? I guess, here's my opinion. Here's what I think. This isn't at all what I thought we were gonna get. Not even on page 1. I've hired, and I think Chris has probably hired almost as many DPW directors in this town. We've gone through probably 5 or 6. And I would say everything that they recommend here, that's what we looked for in the guy. Could they perform it? None. Well, maybe John Westling was probably the best. He did a lot of stuff about stuff. I'm not saying he checked every manhole and he set up that, but he did most of this stuff, some of this. Since John left, have we had good luck? No. And that's not anybody, it's maybe Chris and I's fault in this room, because we hired him. We agreed to hire them, but at the time, they seemed like the right people. So, I don't know, I was disappointed because basically, to me, all this gives us is a list of recommendations of what this person that we hire should do. And that isn't what I thought we were looking for. I thought we were looking for alternative structures, like John asked. Could the foreman be could we have a working foreman like we had, well, Nancy would remember, back when the Cliffy Cummings days? He was the superintendent, but he drove a dump truck, and he'd sweep the streets, and he'd throw stuff in the back, and he had a shovel, and he plowed, he had his own roof, he did everything. That was back, I don't know, 40 years ago, or maybe more than 40 years ago, 45 years ago, that he did that. And it worked fine back then. Now, we don't have that many more miles of street, I don't think. You know, we got a few cul-de-sacs and stuff, but we don't have major roadways, anything different. But that's what I thought we would get a report, that system, here's a system that, here it is, working foreman as superintendent. We don't believe that would work because of da-da-da-da-da. We didn't get that. John had asked the question. We got a list of recommendations of what we should hire. And that isn't what I was necessary. I think it's an ideal candidate list, but I didn't think we needed to spend $9,000 to find an ideal candidate list, okay? I don't know. I wanted some alternatives. I wanted them to say, we need a director that maybe doesn't need an engineering degree or whatever, and I'm not saying that that's what I wanted, but that was an alternative. And a non-working foreman, like, say, have a director, keep Mike doing like kind of what you're doing. You run around, you keep the guys happy, kick them in the ass when they need to, and you keep going and things are getting done. Okay? But they didn't make that recommendation, right? We got the same. What do we got? We got hire a guy. Well, we know we got to hire a guy. We got to hire somebody. So I'll be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed. I don't know about you guys, but that's my opinion. This isn't at all what I thought we were going to have.
Again, reading through the list of recommendations, I mean, I think that's what we asked. I mean, the first one, the new director should be strong construction and project management experience. Yes. The director should be a leader who is able to communicate. Well, I would hope that the director's a leader that can communicate. I mean, communicate the mission of the department. And then he talks, in one of his bullet points here, he says that we have sufficient personnel to meet the current needs of the town, but on the other hand, he's saying we should look into privatizing or sending out some of the work. And Mike just said that we seem like we have enough workers because you're able to pull workers out to do some of these things that weren't being done before to save money.
I think that's the hardest part, is that balance of what to use your guys for and what to privatize. That's probably the hardest thing the director's gonna have to do, because if he knows that, I'm just using Malden Street because that's one of the big things we've done so far. If he knows that we can shim the road with the guys, we can raise all the structures, even though a couple of the structures were done at night on overtime, it was, cost the town a couple $100 to save thousands of dollars. Now the company comes in and they do all the paving and they do all the big stuff, but all these little things that add up so quickly, and especially if we're able to take some of these things out of our Chapter 90 money and pay ourselves back with it for using our sweeper and doing some of these other things, that's the most important thing, I think, the director, whoever gets it, should be able to do, because that is the hard part, is just determining
But
that.
being able to take the guys off of their normal day's work to
Right.
do that means that there is some time to move them around, as long as they're managed and supervised. There is time to take them away from mowing the lawns maybe, or
Well, it's
doing
just-
something else.
It's prioritizing. If it's something that's done on a regular basis, maybe we only get to do it once this year instead of 3 times, that's what he's got to balance until we get caught up. That's why I was saying we have to bid out, in our Chapter 90 money, like 50 manholes to be repaired for next
Right.
spring.
Right, but I would,
That
Just-
makes sense,
yeah.
because that's
that's something,
one-time thing. you know?
Yeah,
Right.
and then we get caught up, because we've been asking to have these done for years. We've been asking, we got to do this one, we got to do that one. I don't think we're going to do any of the ones on Goodale Street, though. I think we're going to leave those, but,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying, though? That's the hard part, is the balance of those things.
right, but what Mr. McCormick says, I don't know, I agree that this wasn't exactly,
That's why I came tonight, because I
well, I mean,
kinda read
just
through it.
because, reading through all these recommendations, I mean, most of the stuff is, I think, what we expected from our directors anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get it. I'm not saying
And
got it.
I thought there might be something with the structure, too. I thought you might say, we need a director, we need a foreman that reports to the director, we need these three guys to report to the foreman, we need the parks person to report to, I mean, I thought there was gonna
Yeah,
be some type
that kind of
of,
a-
one page of that type of thing, the structure of the department.
That may be the answer to why some other structures wouldn't have worked, because we didn't have the right personnel, we didn't have whatever. Well, this was their what they think. That's what we pay them for.
So this study was more like a employment contract to hire somebody.
Yeah, unfortunately, but, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just one other thing to add, that I agree with what everybody is saying, but I'm amazed that they presented this, but then Mike is sitting here saying, well, we're already doing this, and that's part of their recommendations. So
Like they didn't
that,
talk to you.
that gives me some concern, because Mike, if you're telling us that, you know, you guys are doing this, and they're recommending it,
Right.
something is telling me people didn't communicate in the right method, and I agree with the rest of the board, that I expected more of like, this is what some of the other towns are doing, this would be your benefit to do A, B, and C. That's what I thought we were gonna get, so, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, as each new director, you've been there for a long time, each new director comes in, do they dictate what the rank structure, or, you know, the who's gonna report to who? Does that change with each director, or is that?
They all have different approaches. Everybody you've had has had different approaches. Some of them, as far back as Roy McLaughlin, I'd meet with on a regular basis. He'd come out and do to the job sites, and he'd look over what we're doing. He'd give us some of his expertise on some stuff. John Westerling, we communicated by phone a lot. I talked to him
But
by
then when
phone.
it snowed, he couldn't get here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they all had their different things.
Even his four-wheel drive truck, he
yeah.
couldn't get here.
And Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, no, Mr. Chairman.
It stuck
The
in
other
his
thing, I
foot.
don't blame just the director for the directors that were hired. I mean, I might blame some of the other people. I think we should hire a director and not have our town administrator or anybody sit with him for 2 days and say what goes on in the town. I think we should hire a director and say, here's your department. Come back in a month and tell me what you think should be done in this department.
Yeah.
Because if we hire a new guy and he says, this is what happens, he's the foreman, he's the leads parks guy, he does this, he usually does the catch basins, he does this, they all, you know, that's how it runs. He goes out and then he has that in his head. And I think that's what happened over the years. I think we need to hire a director and say, you come back with a recommendation how the department should be run, since we didn't get it from this report.
Well, that's hiring the right person. That's
That's the key.
whole key to it.
And hopefully we will.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, didn't mean to put you on the spot. You probably don't even have to give me the answers to those questions. Don't lose any sleep over it.
All right, Green Quest Partners LLC request for license to be collector of secondhand items and one donation bin permit for 21 West Boylston Street, which is the BP station.
But they're not here.
They're not here tonight, and,
I make a motion we pass over that.
Second.
All right.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. That won't happen. All right, Kevin, we're gonna do the, alcohol beverage license?
What are we doing now?
Alcohol beverage?
Oh, yeah, and I recuse myself, I gotta recuse myself for all the licenses unless you have an issue.
No.
And you need another, somebody involved, just because I get involved with all those other kinds of licenses.
All right, consider renewing the following alcoholic beverage licenses for 2016. Finders Incorporated, Keepers Incorporated, Wachusett Country Club, Charlie's Gallery 2, Kister Corporation, The Mill, Ollie's Italian Eatery LLC, West Boylston Package Store, Wachusett Wine and Spirits, West Boylston Seafood Incorporated, Pinecroft Restaurant, Steve's Pizzeria, Vivian's Market Style Cafe LLC, Harold and Keith Post.
Did you say Wachusett Incorporated?
Wachusett Country
Oh,
Club?
it's over, it's, I'm looking at the list on the thing, you're looking at the agenda, okay. Yep, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consider redoing the attached list of business license. Would you like to read them, Mr. Acting Town Administrator?
Actually, have to read them all.
Do we have to read them all, or?
Yeah, you bet.
Do we have to read them all, Nance?
No.
I don't think
We
we do.
usually,
Do we do?
We don't
usually
have
does.
to,
He usually does, but whatever you say.
but if we don't have to, why put them through that?
A&J's Pizzeria, Common Vic.
Wait a second.
ABC donation bin, donation receptacle permit. ABL Dance Sport Center, dance studio. American Legion, Harold and Keith Post, Common Vic, automatic amusement, entertainment. Auto Right Motor Company, LLC, auto repair. Auto Right Motor Company, LLC, Class 2. Baldarelli Brothers, Inc., Class 2. Big Hearted Books and Clothing, Inc., collector of secondhand articles, donation bin license. Brown Rice Thai Cuisine, Common Vic. CCS Dance Academy, dance studio. Choi Lee's Galley, Inc., Common Vic, entertainment license. Something Express, China Express, Common Victuals license. Christ Lutheran Church, transient vendor. Classic Suites and Inns, motel, hotel operation. There's a restriction flag on that, Mr. Chairman. CMRK, Inc., collector of secondhand articles. CMRK, Inc., donation receptacle. Cranston, Walter Cranston and Son, Inc., auto repair and Class 3. Dairy Queen, Common Vic. Darby's Bakery, Common Vic. Derrick Partnership, entertainment license. Diane Kelly Dance Studio, dance studio. Dunkin' Donuts, Common Vic. Freeform Dance Center, dance studio. Finders, Inc., automatic amusement, Common Vic, entertainment. 2 flags. Geraldo's Italian Bakery, Inc., Common Vic. Gourmet Donuts, Common Vic. Hogan Associates, Inc., limousine license. Hogan Associates, Inc., DBA Worcester Airport, limo and livery service with a flag. Honey Farms, number 40, Common Vic. Il Forno Restaurant, Common Vic. J&J News and Tobacco, Common Vic. Jake's Cafe, Common Vic. Jam Jar Foods, DBA Country Kettle Cafe, Common Vic. John Merak, I think. Transient Vendor in Common Vic. Jungle Gyms, DBA Jungle Land, Inc., fruit and vegetables. Keepers, Inc., Common Vic, entertainment license, billiards license for Dynamo Pool Table, Rose CD Jukebox, and Incredible Technologies Golf Tee Golf. Kevin's Automotive of West Boylston, Class 2 and auto repair. Kitsta Corporation, the Manor Restaurant, Common Vic, and entertainment. Land and Sea, DBA Central Street Market, fruit and vegetable, and Common Vic. M&T Hospitality, DBA The Mill, Common Vic. M&T Hospitality, DBA The Mill, entertainment license. Marjam Enterprises, Inc., DBA Flags RV, Class 1. Marjam Enterprises, Inc., DBA Flag RV, Class 1. Menards Auto Body, Inc., Class 2, Class 3, and auto repair. I should say flags going on Menards and the 2 Marjams. Miola's Ice Cream, Common Vic. Miola's Wayside Ice Cream, entertainment license. Mint Green Planet, donation bin license, collector of secondhand articles, and donation bin license. Noria Energy Retail, Inc., DBA West Boylston something, a filling station license. Noria Energy Retail, Inc., Common Vic license. Ollie's Eatery, Common Vic. Parker's Candy Store, Common Vic. Pinecroft Restaurant, Common Vic. Planet Aid, collector of secondhand articles, donation receptacle times 4. Recycle That LLC, collector of secondhand articles and a donation receptacle. Reservoir Garage, Inc., Class 2 and auto repair, both flagged. Roddy Repair Service, small engine repair. S&S Bread and Deli, Common Vic. S&S Farms, fruit and vegetable. Shannon's Pizza, Common Vic. Steve's Pizzeria, Inc., Common Vic. Subway of West Boylston, Common Vic. The Manor, pool table, an automatic amusement device. Rockstar, Inc., an automatic amusement device, Mega Touch. Toppins Auto Service, auto repair, and Class 2, with a flag on the Class 2 license. Vivian's, Common Vic. Wachusett, Inc., Common Vic, and entertainment license, with a flag on the entertainment license. Watermark Antiques, secondhand articles. Wayside Furniture and Antiques, secondhand articles. WEBO Seafood, Inc., doing business as West Boylston Seafood, Common Vic. West Boylston Antiques and Restoration, secondhand articles. West Boylston Cinema, an entertainment license, flagged, and automatic amusement license, flagged, and 2 more automatic amusement licenses. West Boylston Getty, auto repair, Class 2, flagged, filling station. West Boylston House of Pizza, Inc., Common Vic. West Boylston Limousine Service, limo and livery, West Boylston Taxi and Livery Service, Inc., 2 taxi licenses.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. We already voted on that, didn't we?
No.
We need a motion.
A motion to accept the licenses as read.
Second.
All in
So,
favor?
if I could just ask a question. These have been all approved by all the departments? I don't know who you go to, the building inspector, the tax department, the
Yes.
water, everything's up to,
We don't go to water.
okay, but everything that,
Yes.
and now I'm just because I recall Pinecroft used to have an entertainment, didn't they used to do music or something outside there?
They do have an.
They didn't?
It's under Derek Partnership.
Oh, it's under something else,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a different name. Is there a Derek on
Yeah, no, I just. looked at it.
DERIC on the second page.
That's under something, okay.
Yeah, discussion?
In general, some of these have restrictions. What does that mean? I mean,
there? Many of them have restrictions. If you have a class 1, you may limit, you may put on how many vehicles they can have outside. No storage of junk parts outside. It could be hours of operation. On all of our common vic licenses, we did put something down, if you would like to do BYOB, that you have to notify the police department 14 days in advance in accordance with our BYOB policy. When we have a hearing on any of these licenses, if the board has a concern about something, oftentimes it's transferred onto the license as a restriction. On all of our bin licenses that we recently did, it does mention that if you are notified of debris left around your bin, you are to go out and clean that up within 48 hours.
so they will all be marked as a restriction?
Everything will be a restriction.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Correct. So if you look at the license, that's what you will see.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's it?
Jim needs a glass of water now.
I'm good.
Well, I did ask if we did not have to read them.
Review and consider approving the issuance of RFQ for the project manager for police station project. Anybody get a chance to look at it? Sent over before.
It's essentially the one that we got
With the,
last,
where everything's fixed up.
but it's, look at it, it's only 6 pages, it says all the same stuff, but less restrictive in scope.
Correct. We amended the selection criteria as you requested. And if you vote this next, it will appear in Goods and Services next week, and we'll have a great timeline to get us, we'll be up for 3 weeks, because you wanted to know if we could shorten the time period, and we will have all of our packets in by the next FISP meeting.
Next, they have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion?
Just town council, they gave you the red lines, and they looked at it, and they
Town council,
approved it.
because I had a larger document, so they said this would fulfill the requirements.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review and sign a contract, we're gonna pass over that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, a brief explanation on that. We've done further analysis on the bids, on the disposal bids. At the last meeting, you did move to approve a contract award to Wheelabrator. And as we examine this further, Mr. Chairman, underlying the true conclusion on these bids is whether or not our independent or our pickup contractor, which is a separate deal altogether, will be able to continue, for lack of a better term, siphoning recyclables off. About 30% of your waste stream is siphoned off. You get billed on the net, on the balance of 70%. One facility does not have the capabilities of accepting any recycled material, Wheelbridge. Instead, our allied, might have to carry that, back to another facility, perhaps to the Casella facility that, that they're neighbors with in the town of Auburn. Here's the conundrum we found ourselves in. Allied, the pickup contractor, owns those recyclables under your current contract, okay? But that contract expires on June 30th. And if you're unable to get a successor contract or contractor, to take ownership of those recyclable materials, now you're talking about adding 600 tons annually of costs onto your disposal contract. And it's $64 a ton. All of a sudden, that's not the low bid anymore, okay? So the apparent low bidder may not be the low bidder at all, and we're dependent upon, and this is my first experience with split responsibilities between disposal and pickup contractors, extending the contract of Allied, the pickup contractor is key to the final award of this particular contract. We've been doing a lot of, Nancy and I, together with the contractors, they're buzzing like flies around us here right now. But we can simply extend Allied's contract, to match up, with the 5-year disposal contract. If they agree to do that, and I've asked them for that consideration, and they'll answer us tomorrow, now I've been able to underpin, the disposal portion of this thing. What I don't want to have you do, as I just said earlier, is award to the apparent low bidder for disposal, and then find out come July 1, we're looking at 600 tons a year in added costs onto this. So you can't do one without the other.
And then Casella has offered to extend a contract for another 30 days.
Yes, in our conversations, and I do have that in writing from Casella, until we make a determination on this, they'll honor the contract, through January 31 instead of, the current December 31 contract date. But I'm in active discussions with Wheelabrator, Allied, and Casella. The key here, frankly, Mr. Chairman, is will our pickup party not only have, the truck and the ability to separate, the recyclables from the MSW, but do they have a, will they take ownership of it? So that's a key, that's a key question. And until we get that resolved, I expect to have it resolved, fairly shortly. And thank goodness that is an exemption under Chapter 30B, the state's procurement law. Chapter 30B, Section 1 lists has the exemptions in it. Transport of trash is exempt from that formal bidding process. It's, in fact, exemption number 30 under Section 1 of Chapter 30B. All of that said, I've discussed this with Nancy, I've discussed it with Mike, about Allied's history with the town, and it seems to be just great. And so extending them for a third 5-year option, seems to make sense as long as they're, it's under the same terms and conditions. I gotta lock them up first before we award the disposal contract. I wish I could have said it in fewer words, but it's complicated.
So, as far as extending them for another 5-year contract? Is that something we're gonna try to renegotiate? Price of gas is half what it was when we
With Allied?
signed the last one, yeah.
You know, we asked Mike, I can't pronounce his name, Mike, S-Z-C-Z-E-P-A-N.
Mike,
Mike, to make a pitch to us, that option was, was very much on the table. And I think Nancy used the sharpen your pencil phrase she likes to throw around a little bit at the same time. We'll hear from him tomorrow.
Are we okay with that? All right, what are we doing? Town Administrator's report?
Couple items, Mr. Chairman, tax rate is set, tax bills are gonna go out on a timely basis. And I was gonna report to you also that, what Mike Kittredge did already is that the Worcester Street guardrail repairs are substantially complete. They're about 99% complete, but are substantially complete. I thought that would be good news for you to hear. But the guy responsible for the fix actually, got to say it first. That's all.
You were gonna claim responsibility before you voted.
If I thought I could have gotten away with it, I might have, yeah.
All right, meeting invitations, announcements, January 2nd, Saturday, 1:30 PM, Masonic Lodge Eagle Scout ceremony from Patrick McEwen. Designate a member of the board to attend. He did a kiosk project down at the rail trail. He did it for the Economic Development Task Force. He did a great job, and it really came out good. Really,
He did, and if you noticed in your signature
I
file,
saw
there's a proclamation, it does mention,
I was going to read that, yeah.
oh, okay.
And we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of West Boylston, in recognition of your attaining the highest rank of scouting, the Eagle Award, extend our sincere congratulations to you and your family. This is a commendable achievement which speaks volumes to not only your commitment and dedication to the Boy Scouts of America, but to you as an individual. We thank you for your Eagle project, which was the installation of an advertising kiosk at the entrance to the rail trail of the Town of West Boylston. We also thank you for your service to our community through our coat drives, preparing winter storm kits for senior citizens, and volunteering at the Wachusett Recycling Center. Congratulations on your membership to the Order of the Arrow, an honor voted on by your peers to honor those scouts who best exemplify the scout oath and law in their daily lives. You are no doubt very proud of this recognition. We wish to continuous success for your studies at the University of Harvard as a President Scholar. I think that's very, he did a great job. He did the down the rail trail. If anybody's got a chance to go down and look at it, it came out incredible. Did a very nice job. If anybody doesn't have a problem, I'd like to attend this and give this to them. Does anybody have an issue with that?
Go right ahead. I designate John. Yeah, we
Yeah, we
are.
got time.
I think that'd be great, John.
Okay?
I know Kevin and I have done a few, so
Yep.
you can have the next one.
Got about 12.
All right.
One without a certificate. Oh, else though?
Selectmen's report. Mr. Rucho?
Good.
No, I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Cormac?
Mr. McCormick,
Let's see a report. No, I'm good.
I'm sorry, just to report that I went to the COA meeting the other day, and I kind of sat there and just listened to what they have to say, and I think they have some recommendations for the building committee, but they're going to meet again before our meeting in the end of January to give their top choice on where they would like the new senior center. So it was interesting going to the meeting and seeing what they had to say.
Future agenda items. Mr. McCormick?
All set. Merry Christmas.
Yes, Mayor. Ms. Monson?
I'm all set.
Mr. Crowley?
Alibi on the selectmen's reports, we should have the master plan for the parks completed. We have a meeting scheduled for January 5th, 7th? January 7th, I believe that's going to be the final presentation of the master plan. So once that happens, I'm assuming the Parks Facilities Committee will want to get on the Selectmen's agenda.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think we're gonna have a meeting and then we're gonna pick out of those three, something I talked to Penn today. But yeah, we'll have
It's-
a report soon.
Short.
Very soon.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't usually have a request, but I have a request is that if Nancy's going to the MIAA meeting, that she try to meet with Lieutenant Governor Polito and ask Lieutenant Governor Polito if she would like to come to a coffee here in West Boylston to discuss the release of the funds for Goodale Park and the library.
Excellent.
I think,
Is tackling the lieutenant governor among the options that she can?
Whatever, however you get it here, it doesn't
I
matter.
think we can, Mr. McCormick, I think we should maybe just set that up and invite her, because she may not see her that.
No,
Yeah.
but see what I'll just, that would be, you might have a meeting even with her, some
She-
breakfast or luncheon.
Last year, she was the speaker at the women's luncheon. This year, she is not, but usually at some point, she does make an appearance with the governor. And we did also send her a letter asking her if her calendar was free to come out. Maybe I'll remind her about the letter and about
Yeah.
our projects, and
Yeah, we could just have a meeting to see, because
at her convenience,
We could-
certainly.
she certainly got a lot done for Shrewsbury. I mean, take her, and now they're gonna pave everything over there too, on Shrewsbury Street and all that. I'm like, my God, how much more is gonna give them? But, so maybe we can, use that as a, come on, give us some money, will you?
So I think tackling her is the answer, since we've already sent the letter.
Just kidnap her, yeah, whatever you have to do.
And I just want to wish everybody happy holidays.
If I could just, in regards to future agenda items, could we just ask the building inspector to give us a report on any inspections that he's doing on town buildings?
Sure.
Any going on, any that are coming up?
Well, there's a lot going on in the schools, right?
Yeah, if we could get just an update on those and see how those are going, and if there's any issues and things
Now,
like that.
are you looking for a written report or the presence of the building inspector or both?
I don't think we have the building inspector here.
Well, maybe if we can get the report first, maybe, and then, just, so we won't see it that night, and then,
So why don't we add them to the monthly, ask them to be added to the monthly reports that Nancy sends out to us?
well, he is already in there, but I mean, I just want an update on just town, well, the building department should be in there.
I don't think he reports in that.
So like the fire chief as well, because they, by law, they need to work in tandem, and I know they have worked in tandem.
I personally would just like to know what the building inspector is doing with the schools and with the other town buildings, that's all, just a list. I don't mind if he's here.
Yeah, a nice list would probably be good, and if
Yeah, we
anybody
can
has
see the
some
list, and then if we have issues.
questions, we can ask them.
Yep,
Oh, yeah,
that's fine.
he doesn't have to come running out.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion?
Merry Christmas.
So move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas. January,
We're not having enough meetings for this, like.
January 2nd. Of course.
Well, I don't want to miss, we don't want to be too late.